Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 736A, and today's date is August.6, 2015, and the title of this episode is The Economic Carnage Continues, Layoffs 34% Higher Than Last Year. Now, before I get started, I just want to make an announcement. The interview with Trey Knippa is now uploaded to the X22 Report Spotlight channel on YouTube. You can go right there and view it, or you can come to the x22report.com site. You will see it on the right-hand side, and you can play it from there. Let's get right into the economic collapse financial news. Now, we see it out in Greece. The banks there are dying fast. I mean, right now, the banks are just staying afloat. They're completely insolvent. People have taken their money out of the banks. And we see right now tax revenues in Greece, they're completely collapsing. No one's working. People aren't paying their taxes. The Greek treasury said tax revenues were 8.5% lower in the first 6 months of 2015 than the same period a year earlier. And we have to remember, Greece still has a huge payment due on August 20th. 3.2 billion euros. Most likely they won't be able to make this unless they get maybe another emergency loan from the ECB. But the IMF right now is out. And it seems like this bailout deal is really not going anywhere at this point. I mean, it still looks like Greece might still have to exit the Eurozone. I mean, the IMF says, listen, we'll participate in Greece's bailout, but we're not going to do anything or make any type of decisions until the fall, late fall. So they're not even getting involved at this point. So basically, there's no tax revenue. There's people out of work. The banks are failing. They're under capital controls. There's no deal. I think their only alternative right now is to print that drachma and leave the Eurozone. Get it over with. This is what they need to do to start creating economic growth. Get rid of the debt. Rule it, it's odious. It was done illegally. We know it was because we know the former president and Goldman Sachs created this debt completely illegal. And we know Germany owes Greece war reparations. Get that money. Guess what? They're all free and clear. That's what they need to do. But Tsipras folded on it. He didn't listen to the people. They told him, we don't want this deal. We want economic growth. But he didn't listen. And now look where he is. The people don't support him. The creditors are laughing at him. Soon he'll be completely out of office. Here in the United States, what are we seeing? Well, the economy is completely falling apart. It is disintegrating right in front of our eyes. I mean, there was a poll done by YouGov, and it said that 52% believe that their children will have less disposable income than they did in the future. The outlook for their children is declining. Well, yeah. The value of the dollars is lost every single year. And right now, the country is in so much debt. What do you think it's going to be like when your 5, 6, 7-year-old reaches working age? It's going to be horrific. We won't even make it that long. But we're seeing the carnage continue. I mean, the stock market is fluctuating up and down, big ups, big downs. We saw this back in 2008 in the summer. Take a look at that. It's almost a repeat of what we saw. And now we see that U.S. employers announced plans to lay off 105,000 workers in July, the highest level in nearly 4 years. Remind you of something? Remind you of the year of 2008 during the summer when companies were laying off? Now, this is coming from Challenger Gray and Christmas because you have to remember, the U.S. government's not reporting on layoffs anymore because back in 2013, they got rid of that department because of budget cuts. We don't need that. But we need to keep our golf course. We need our restaurants. We need all those other things that keep us happy. Oh, and we should have an increase in salary. But when we look at this, what do we see? We see the year-to-date total is 393,000 layoffs since the beginning of this year. 34% higher than the same period a year ago. And it's going to get worse, not better. We're seeing more and more companies lay off. Retail is completely contracting. Real estate is doomed. It's falling apart in front of our eyes. Once we leave these summer months, it's going to implode on itself. We see already the Atlanta Fed, who predicts what the GDP is going to be, and they've been pretty good in forecasting this. They've been very close. And now they're saying it's only going to be about 1% for the third quarter. 1%? Well, the government told us it was going to be 2.5%, 3%. What happened? We're out of the winter months. What possibly could be happening here? Well, basically, what does this tell us? It's going to be 2% below what the Fed, the U.S. government, was predicting. Well, basically, this is the countdown to recession/depression. Now, those people who believe that we've been in a recession, we're going into a depression. Those people who believe we're in a recovery, we're heading into a recession. Well, I think we've been in a recession teetering on the depression. We're going into a collapse. This whole thing's completely falling apart. And it's not going to get better anytime soon. It's going to get worse and worse as time goes on. And we can see it. And this is why they're ramping up everything all around the world. I mean, just recently, they're provoking China. They're pushing Russia in Ukraine. The Middle East is completely falling apart, and they're getting ready for a major offensive. We see Russia right now has overtaken Saudi Arabia as the world's largest producer of oil. And this is coming from the statistics from the U.S. government in 2014. So right now we know prices have come down quite a bit. We know there's a lot of pressure on Russia. We understand the economies of the Eurozone, which have been downgraded by the S&P. We know the economy of the United States is completely falling apart, even though the corporate media, the U.S. government, the Fed keeps telling us that we're in a recovery. They did this back in 2008, right up to the point when everything fell apart. They told us everything was fine, that we were headed in the right direction. And guess what? It fell apart. We are seeing the same thing. There is a lot of people out there saying, yeah, this whole thing's starting to crumble now. As we get closer and closer to fall, I don't know if this thing can stay together anymore. And neither do I. And this is why every single person needs to be prepared and ready. And I've said this many times before. If you have been stocking up on food, do not stop. Remember the people in Greece. They knew something was coming. They took the money out of the bank. They prepared. They didn't know when it was going to happen, but they felt it. They knew it. They saw the signs. We're seeing the same thing again. So you need to continue. If you have cash, take cash out. Keep it someplace else. Buy more gold and silver just to have as a store of wealth. Buy toiletries. Get extra medicine if you have someone that has diabetes, heart problems, or anything like that. Just have extra just in case. Sometimes it's hard to get, I know, but try to get it anyhow. Make sure you have water or things that you can purify water with. Make sure you have something that can break down the waste products in the toilet. I mean, if you haven't been stocking up, there are many places you can go to get things already prepared and everything contained in one. I mean, lifereliance.com, you can go there. They have food, water storage, bug out bags, seeds, 24-hour kits, first aid kits, you name it, they have it. And everything is put together so you don't even have to do anything. So if you just started listening, this is something you might want to think of doing. You can do that at lifereliance.com. If you've been preparing all along and you've been going to other places to get it, like Costco, Sam's Club, BJ's, things like that, continually stock up. Make sure you have what you need. Because we don't know exactly when it's coming, but we're seeing the signs. It is getting closer and closer. Now, we talk about the TPP quite a bit. We've been talking about this. And it's starting to seem that this whole thing is completely dead. I think all the nations around the world, most of them at least, they've seen what this is. This is not a benefit to the people. This is not really a trade deal. This is countries giving up their sovereignty. And we're starting to see this whole thing starting to fall apart, especially with the round of negotiations in Hawaii last week where it completely fell apart. And we're starting to see that a lot of these countries are saying, no, we're not even approaching this. And it looks like as at this point, unless they do something, it's dead in the water. And we know that the central bankers, the corporations, they're controlling the government right now. The government is not working for the people. They're working for these entities. And this is why everything's kept a secret. This is why they don't want you to know about anything. And this is why we need to stay on top of it and understand what they are doing. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.